You like that? Got music in now. We're making these videos better and better every week. Okay? Just like we should be our teams. We need to make improvements. And also, I'm going to format this a little differently. I'm adding in an injury report. I'm also going to go over the matchups, but a little differently because we don't need to go over everybody's team's rosters pretty much, just because we know everyone's teams. So with matchups, we're going to go over obviously the winner-loser and who the league kind of voted for to win that match. And we'll go over this week the high point score for each team. Then we'll go over standings. We'll have our Ain't Nobody Got Time for That segment, weekly winner for the $5, and then we'll kind of go over week 5 to wrap it all up. So let's get into it. Alright, so the injury report for this week. I think I'm going to do this every week as long as there's something relevant to talk about. It just sparked me because it happened to me this week. I know it's happened to other people, obviously, already. But I think it's just something fun to talk about. So first one I'll go over is Marcus Mariota. Coulter, you own Mariota. He's listed as day-to-day with a hamstring injury. He got the injury rushing in on his second touchdown, so he still got your points even though he got injured. You just need to make sure you monitor that. Next up, Derek Carr. He was on my team. Fractured his transverse process of his lower back, whatever that means. So, not good. Back injuries are bad. I think Tony Romo was announcing the game when it happened, and he knew right away that's his back because that happened to him. So he's expected to miss 2 to 6 weeks. That time frame is scary. Ty Montgomery, broken ribs on Thursday, on the Thursday game. Those injuries linger. So, I mean, you can play with broken ribs. Apparently, if you play when you can't deal with the pain tolerance, you could risk organ damage, like actual internal damage. So that's not good. I saw Jason picked up the backup. So Jason's going to capitalize on that injury. Sorry, Brad. Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu for the Falcons went out during the game. They ended up actually losing. Whether it was because of that, I don't know. Probably. Julio had a hip flexor. I mean, it seems like he's always kind of injured, but he always plays through it. Sanu, I don't know for sure. I didn't really look him up. But he was also out. I'm sure they'll be back. They have a bye week this week, so they'll all be able to rest up. Dalvin Cook tore his ACL. For some reason, ESPN doesn't have him like on the IR or whatever. They just have him listed as out. I dropped him. He's out for the season. Bad news because he was the 3rd leading rusher in the league, I think. And obviously a bright spot in that Vikings offense. Chris Carson, his injury did not look good. He had a high ankle sprain and an ankle fracture. So he's done for the year as well. So those are kind of the big name injuries around the league. It stinks, but it's part of fantasy. So, you know, I'm going to rally. I know everyone else who has a guy injured is going to rally. We're going to work that waiver wire. We're going to work those trades if we have to. I know Jason's already, you know, been doing that, even though his was because of the draft. You know, he didn't have any real injuries. He's just bad on the draft. Jason, I hope you win this week. I can't remember who you're playing. We'll get to it. All right, so standings. Right now we have Blaine at the top, all by himself at 4-0. He scores, I'm going to look at points 4 here, as Colin pointed out. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's sitting at 6th in points. Scored at 443. So kind of middle of the pack, but he's winning games. You have 270 points scored against you. That's an average of, I think, 67. I didn't write it down, but I think it's an average of 67 points per week. If you're not winning with those kind of numbers being put up against you, then there is something very wrong with your team. But you're winning, so I guess congrats on that. The 2 dreaded monster, you have the least points scored in the league. You're averaging just under 100 points per game at 97. That's not going to cut it. I think once your 2 dreaded monster gets healthy, that being Melvin Gordon and J.J., I think you'll be all right. Whether or not you're going to start winning more games, you hope so. I don't. but that's just sad that they have those injuries. Other news and standings. It's kind of a mix of everyone. We got a lot of 2-2s, so those guys could go either way. I think come playoff race, it's just going to come to points scored. So I know we make a big deal of it now because, somebody's record is, worse, but they have more points scored. Just make the playoffs, Just stay in the hunt. Work for that 6-5 seed because I know that there will be a team that's under 500 make the playoffs. It usually happens, especially in a 12-team league. Somebody under 500 will make it. And it'll be because of a tie in record and their points forced. 4, Colin. Okay, so the points for thing, I legitimately thought it was forced because I didn't Google it to look. It's just like PF, that's how many points you score. I figured it was forced. But I guarantee everyone who liked that didn't know. I had to Google it just to look. I'm not going to sit here and act like I knew, but what I was saying made sense, and the PF could stand for points forced for me. Colin's pissing me off. Colin still hasn't paid his league dues. There's a couple people that haven't, but Colin, damn it. Lost my spot. Colin gets me heated in these videos. Golly. Oh, so you guys saw my power rankings. It has nothing to do with our playoff seeding or anything like that. It's just, kind of my opinion on who's got the best team right now and how I rank them, how they're scoring. So I think it's funny. Blaine, you'll probably jump up. If you win again this week, whether or not it's because of the Egemeyer curse, your team's good because you could have the trashiest lineup and still win at this point. I'm dubbing your team the best. As long as you keep winning, man, nothing is going to stop you. You have the fantasy football gods on your side. Losing David Johnson might have been the best thing that ever happened to your team because you got the best karma ever out of that. Okay, so segue into the next segment. We're speaking about Blaine's team. Why not we get Blaine on our second edition of Ain't Nobody Got Time for That. All right, here we have it, our second edition of Ain't Nobody Got Time for That. We have Blaine Egemeyer, the undefeated number 1 seed in the league. Blaine, we appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on the show, talk some football, talk some fantasy. But let's get right to it. What is something you don't have time for, Blaine?
Commissioner Karsick, it's great to be on the show. Thanks for having me on. Really loving the new weekly segment. So it's truly an honor and a privilege to be on the show. So thanks again. To answer your question, I ain't got time for the constant hate, disrespect, shade, any of that that's being thrown my way. Trash talking, poking a little bit of fun, that's one thing. But having a target placed on my back for doing the one thing that everybody in this league is aiming to do, which is win, that's something that I ain't got time for and is quite frankly pretty exhausting up to this point.
Okay, yeah, I can see how that would be exhausting. But when people hate you, you're doing something right. It seems like, you don't have time for all this nagging and bickering. You only have time for winning. But what do you have to say about everyone heckling you? And it's just your matchups. Is the Egemeyer curse even a real thing? Let us know.
Okay, Commish. I'm going to keep this humble for you. There is no Egemeyer curse. I believe that this is just kind of acting as a figment of the imagination, acting as a scapegoat for my individual weekly opponents and for, actually the entire league alike, to kind of avoid giving me credit or avoid taking credit for their own demise, their own defeat. I think it's definitely a figment of the imagination. Have I had favorable matchups up to this point? Definitely, there's no doubting it. The points against column does not lie. I've had pretty weak opponents thus far. I'll take that back. I haven't had weak opponents. They just had poor performing weeks. And sometimes it's how it works. You know, your winningest teams sometimes may not have the best schedules or the strongest opponents, and that kind of has to fall on somebody. And honestly, 2 of these weeks out of the 4 so far, I've put up pretty decent numbers that would have gotten me the win against the majority of the league, either one of those weeks. So at this point, could I be 2-2, 3-1? Yeah, no doubt. But I have had favorable matchups. I'm not going to act like I haven't. Everyone's made it very clear in the points against column, but 4-0. That's where I'm sitting. That's where everybody wants to be. I don't think it's brag-worthy because I haven't had a lot of work to put in, but I think that, as you alluded to a couple weeks ago in your power rankings, that back then were a little bit better. The fantasy football gods may be looking down upon me. Lost David Johnson in like the second quarter of the first game this season. There goes my first overall pick. Maybe I should take a little bit of credit for failing to, research how long Andrew Luck was going to be out. Didn't think he was going to be out quite, this long, and thought T.Y. Hilton would be a little bit better of a second pick. He's had one good game and has been kind of a bust otherwise so far. Number 2 pick is kind of failing me as well. I went with Christian McCaffrey, number 3 overall, and he has not produced like I expected. Kind of expected him to be a PPR monster. A lot of receptions, which is kind of what the NFL is kind of going to now. A lot of these power backs are kind of becoming a thing of the past, and it's a lot of pass catching backs as Jason's, Chris Thompson has, and Duke Johnson Jr. have kind of proven up to this point. So thought that the pass catching back would be a good pick. He's been kind of a disappointment also. So my top 3 picks not performing up, to the standards at which they should be, not performing the way they should be. So I think I deserve a little bit more credit for getting the wins that I am, because as far as I know, everybody in the league still has their number 1 overall pick. And it's kind of a grind week to week, having to try and put up numbers with your top 3 players being disappointing. So is that on me as a fantasy owner and during draft night? It is on me, but at this point I'm 4-0, looking to make it 5 against Jason. Jason, good luck this week. And that's all I got for you.
Okay, well said. Blaine, you do speak like a true humble winner. You make some good points about your players going down or, not performing like you thought they would on draft night. Maybe now the rest of the league will sympathize with you. I doubt it. We're pretty ruthless. I mean, you already know that. I wish you the best of luck, though, for the rest of the season. Thanks for being on. Appreciate it.
Again, Kamish, it was great to be on the show. Really appreciate your time and effort. Keep up the good work. The league's a lot of fun to play in right now, and greatly in part because of the work you're putting in. So love it. Keep up the good work. Thanks for having me on. Good luck, everybody.
Thanks, Blaine. Appreciate it. Yeah, I do put a lot of work into this. I don't expect anything in return, guys. I just want everyone to have fun. I benefit the most from this. I love doing this stuff. So, there you have it, though, guys. Sitting at the top of the leaderboard, so that's why we had him on. He earned this week's Ain't Nobody Got Time for That segment. Gosh, man, he composed himself well. He makes it seem like he's been there before. You know how everyone says, act like you've been in the end zone before. Well, we can tell this man has been in the end zone. Literally, in high school, he was in the end zone a lot. And fantasy football, he's in first, and he's acting like it. That's the kind of guy you want running your organization. Seems like he could definitely handle some damage control. Not necessarily any damage has been dealt, but, he's handling it well. He's keeping himself going. But there you go. That'll wrap it up for this week's segment. Next week, we will most likely have another person on. I have someone in mind. I got to get in contact with them. we'll make it a good one. Hopefully this one turned out better than last week's. So up next, we're going to go over Week 5. We will go over matchups, and we'll wrap this thing up. All right, so before we get into the Week 5 matchups, the $5 winner this week was Keenan Allen with 138 receiving yards. Colin owns him, so that's his second win of the week. He won Week 1 with Kareem Hunt. So congratulations to you, Colin. As you said in the group text, only $30 more to go to get your league buy-in back. That's 40. But technically you're up 10 because you haven't even paid your buy-in yet. So I guess you're just waiting to see if you get that 40 and you won't. You're pissing me off, Colin. All right, let's get into these matchups from this previous week. First one we'll do Upper Deckers, Jason Walker versus For Netflix and Chill, Coach Therrell's team. Coach Therrell came out with a victory, big one, 151-102. Jason, your high score, Aaron Rodgers, expected. Discount, double check. The dude, probably the best arm talent in the league right now. Coach Therrell, your high point score this week was not Leonard Fournette's 24 points. It was not DeAndre Hopkins' 26. It was Greg the Leg Zerline's 27 points. 27 points from your kicker, just to rub it in Jason's face. Yeah, okay. Next up, Steve McNair's shotgun offense. Colin Beffa taking on two-dreaded monster, Nick Walker. Colin Beffa squeaked this one out, 100-98. It all came down to Kirk Cousins' performance against the Chiefs. He may have lost the real game, but Colin, he won you in fantasy. He put up 20 points. He was your high point scorer. He was the reason you won. Captain Kirk did not disappoint. Two-dreaded monster, high point scorer, Russell Wilson. So both of your quarterbacks. So far, we have a lot of quarterbacks. 27 points. Did very well for you this week. He was a good play. You didn't play him last week. You still lost. You had 98 points, as we talked about earlier. That's right around your average for the year. So, got to get that better, Nick. Here we have Brandon Cooks, Brad's team, taking on the McAfrican Americans. Blaine stayed at undefeated. He's now 4-0. Brad only put up 80. You can't even be mad, though. You got to go into this week knowing you're going to be the low point scorer of the league because you're taking on Blaine. So, Blaine, you can put up 80 points every week and still win. Doesn't matter. Let's see. Tom Brady, the high point scorer, another quarterback for Brad's team. Blaine, your high point scorer was Travis Kelce with 20. Oh, no, sorry. Devin Funchess. You lucked out with Devin Funchess. 26 points. He had 2 touchdowns. You could not even played him and still won. It's just getting these matchups. Oh, gosh. All right. So now we have myself, Matt Stafford, and the boys versus Premature Score Guys on Alex's team. He took me out 125-101. My high point score being Zeke with 30 points, 29.9. His high point scorer was Cam Newton. He also had 29 from Lamar Miller. So those two guys sealed it for you. Dalvin and Julio going out for me did not help. So Alex comes out victorious there. Next up, we had Bell Needs a Blunt, Jeremy's team versus Two Girlies, One Cup, Coulter. Jeremy, your high point scorer, Le'Veon Bell, doing what Le'Veon Bell does now, so that's good. Eli Manning's looking better. Couldn't put up enough points. Coulter, your team is always putting up points now, it seems. Todd Gurley, the number 1 back in the league in terms of fantasy, with 34 points. Doesn't surprise me. Todd Gurley is doing very well this season. Last matchup we had. Let's Get Rolling. Coach Partney, your name is Let Get Rolling, so if you could just change that to Let's Get Rolling, I don't know, that just triggers me every time I see it. Against House Starkathion, Hunter's team. Hunter came out with a win here, so that might be good for the league. just because Coach Partney's team is a real threat. So Hunter won 117 to 100. Coach Partney, your leading scorer, gosh, a lot at 1, 2, 3, 4 people at 15. So everyone was just average for you. So 4 people at 15 points. Devontae Freeman, technically 15.8. Your big guy. Hunter, your guy was quarterback Drew Brees. So 19. No one on either team here put up over 20. But they both managed to squeak over 100 or get over 100. So that's your week 4 matchups. Everyone's doing well. Good league. Next segment. Okay, so week 5. I'm not going to go over everyone at Pick'em because we're going to do that on the Facebook now. So I'm just going to go over some intriguing matchups here. Blaine versus Jason. Obviously the undefeated team. And Jason, you could potentially be the guy everyone wants you to be right here and take down Blaine, maybe prove that Eggemeyer Curse isn't a real thing. So I don't know how many people are really pulling for you. What if Blaine loses now just 4 in a row? Like, he actually gets real matchups and loses. It could easily happen. So the other one I want to go over here in week 5 is Theral versus Nick, only because they're both at 1 and 3. So whoever loses this game is 100% still at the bottom. Jason could still lose and be 1 and 4, but whoever loses out of that is at least going to be in last by themselves or tied for last. Either way, it's not a good place to be in. So both of you guys, it's a must win. Pull out all the stops. Do whatever you can. If you haven't already, get on the Facebook page. Vote for who you want. We're not doing spreads, so it's just straight up who you think's going to win. There you go. Week 5 coming at you. Halfway through. After week 5, this week coming up is halfway through the regular season for us. So, if you're not dialed in already, you need to be. This is a very crucial part of the season. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen a 1 and 3 team just grind and just be trashy and work their way up into the playoffs. I mean, you could be 1 and 3 right now and still win the whole thing. You might not get a bye week if you're, not being that 1 and 2 seed, but it could easily happen. So don't give up if you're sitting down there. A lot can happen over the next 5 weeks. A lot has already happened. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. Next week should be same time. Lost my train of thought there. I don't know where I was going. But this video's over with anyways. I enjoyed doing it once again. Good luck in week 5, and go get 'em.